Now, Turkey and Saudi Arabia, they say they plan to defeat the Islamic State, don't they? What is that plan? What do they have?
Well, the exact strategy is not yet known, but what we know is Saudi Arabia has said they're willing and they're ready to send troops into Syria to fight against ISIL.
I think that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are playing here in Syria a very dangerous game, where they're trying to drag countries that they have an alliance with militarily and to drag them into fighting their own war.
If there is any consensus among the coalition to send troops on the ground, Saudi Arabia will be ready to send the troops on the ground.
This word game is similar to claims that there is a plan B, claims that it's time to prepare ground troops. It's a slippery slope.
Turkey and Saudi Arabia could be gearing up to launch a ground operation in Syria. That's according to Turkey's top diplomat, who said they are ready to act if a common anti-ISIL strategy is worked out. He added that Riyadh is sending warplanes and possibly troops to a Turkish airbase, with Saudi officials already having arrived to inspect it. The exact number of jets has not yet been revealed. Well, that airbase in question is Ingurlik, located in the city of Adana, which borders Syria. It's currently home to both Turkish and American Air Force units used to launch strikes against Islamic State.
What the hell is going on in the meeting of Pope Francis and Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill? It was confirmed that the possibility of two churches, political association, to counter the genocide of Christians. During their historic meeting, two Christian hierarchs signed a joint declaration, which many hope will open a new chapter in relations between the Russian Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. What agreements or documents are they signing there? Are they signing some type of new religion for us? These talks have confirmed that the possibility of the two churches, political association for carrying out specific tasks in the fight against genocide of Christians. What that's supposed to mean? These two popes are meeting for the first time in our history, and World War III is about to start. Guys, this is a historic moment, I'm telling you. Given the extreme that everyone is bombing ISIS in Syria, several Russian government officials have warned Saudi Arabia that any military ground operation in Syria would be a declaration of war. President Vladimir Putin said that Russian cruise missiles could be equipped with nuclear warheads. Russia is in a new Cold War with the US and its allies. Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said that
The Syrian crisis is one of the factors that's been pushing Moscow and Western powers towards a new Cold War. That's according to the Russian Prime Minister during a face-to-face meeting with NATO's Secretary General.
NATO is undertaking the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense in decades. We agreed to enhance our forward presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
NATO relations towards Russia remain close and unfriendly. In stronger words, we have reached the level of a new Cold War, and Mr. Stoltenberg highlighted that. Sometimes I wonder whether we live in 2016 or 1962.
Well, that Turkish-Saudi announcement comes right after America's top diplomat warned against any destabilizing actions in Syria. Whether Riyadh and Ankara will heed that warning remains to be seen.
Almost everybody has agreed that if all one side does is escalate, the other side will too. And we can have an endless escalation between Iran, between Shia, between Sunni, between Saudi Arabia or Turkey or Qatar or any country of interest has the ability to blow this apart.
the stage for the global economic collapse and World War III is set. Saudi Arabia said that 350,000 troops from more than 20 Persian Gulf Arab nations will participate in an exercise called North Thunder. The drill will take place in the northern part of the country. It has been described as the largest military maneuver in the history of the region, according to the Press TV. Turkish armed forces began heavy artillery fire earlier this Saturday. targeting Kurdish positions in what Turkish military officials called a retaliation. The shelling also targeted Syrian forces, according to RIA Novosti. The Turkish shelling of Kurdish positions continued for over 3 hours, almost without a break. The Turkish forces were using mortars and missiles and firing from the Turkish border, not far from the city of Azaz in the Aleppo. You see, all sides, including US, Russia, Saudi Arabia, pretend to be working towards a ceasefire and a diplomatic solution in Syria, but their actions speak much louder than their words. An exceptionally provocative move by Turkey clearly indicates that the first stage of World War III has started.
We cannot defeat Daesh in Syria unless we bring about change in Bashar al-Assad. We cannot defeat Daesh in Syria unless we bring about change in Bashar al-Assad. So when Assad goes, the fertile environment in which Daesh operates in Syria will be removed, and we can deal with them.
A ground operation by foreign troops in Syria would lead to a full-scale war. Moscow is against ground operation in Syria, as it will lead to a full-scale war, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said. No one is interested in a new war. A ground operation will lead to a full-fledged war. Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Adel al-Jubeir has warned that if Syrian political process fails, President Bashar Assad will have to be removed by force. Saudi Arabia will push as much as they can to ensure that the goal is achieved in Syria to remove Assad.
So as you can see, for Saudi Arabia, the fight against ISIL and the bid to overthrow President Assad's regime should go hand in hand. So it remains to be seen if Saudi Arabia is to send in troops into Syria. Who exactly are they fighting against? Is it ISIL or President Assad?
Russian aviation has helped the Syrian army to break through a 3-year blockade of 2 strategic cities in the Syria's north. This victory has brought fatal consequences for ISIS. The Syrian government is back on the winning track, thanks to Putin. Russian aviation in Syria has destroyed nearly 1,900 terrorist facilities during 510 sorties from February 4th to February 11th. So in 1 week, Russians have destroyed nearly 1,900 terrorist facilities in Syria, Russian defense minister said. The Dutch government said on Friday that it has decided to carry out airstrikes against Daesh or ISIS terrorist group in Syria. The US-led international coalition continued bombing targets across Syria, while demanding that Russia stops its own campaign as part of a ceasefire deal. US-led coalition against ISIS carried out 24 airstrikes in Iraq and Syria. Russians have carried out 1,900 airstrikes in 7 days, and US coalition has carried out only 24 airstrikes. I showed you some facts and the hard evidence from the mainstream news. It is important to acknowledge the fact that World War III is about to start in Syria any moment now.
The world is literally going to war, and there's a media blackout in Western countries. Dozens of countries began military exercises in February. More major exercises are planned for March. The Middle East is the bomb waiting to explode. Saudi Arabia will lead a coalition of hundreds of thousands of troops in a military exercise called Thunder of the North. This will include 20 countries across the Middle East. Turkey has already invaded Syria from the north and currently occupies portions of Syria. Remember that Turkey is one of the largest member nations in NATO. And NATO completed military exercises back in November that was one of the largest in history. Turkey has also been carrying out military exercises in response to what is happening with the Kurds. Iran and Russia have flexed their military muscles just north of Israel's border, and now Israel has started major military exercises involving air, ground, and sea. India and Nepal will coordinate military in response to China's aggression in the region, while China is running huge exercises in the South China Sea to counter the presence of the U.S. military. North Korea has leveled dozens of threats to South Korea and the U.S., resulting in South Korea performing the largest ever naval and air simulations for the purpose of destroying Pyongyang. The simulations are being carried out alongside the United States. North Korea is threatening more nuclear tests in response. Vietnam just carried out major naval exercises while Thailand showed its naval operation in the South China Sea alongside the United States, which China and Cambodia responded to with their own operations. Taiwan has performed vast military exercises involving air and sea in just the past month. Russia continues to fly aerial operations over Crimea and simulate bombings, and has carried out operations involving Ukraine. In response, Ukraine has summoned reserves and started their own huge military exercises involving air and ground troops. Germany has already sent military to the Middle East, though Angela Merkel has been mum about the details as to Germany's involvement in the region. France and Great Britain are flying aerial operations over Syria. Other countries in Eastern Europe, such as Latvia, Poland, and Estonia, have called for increased NATO protection against Russia. Nordic countries will begin some of the largest military exercises ever performed in their countries in response to Russia, who has simulated a nuclear strike in Finland and violated numerous countries' airspaces, including Denmark, Netherlands, Finland, and Norway. The United Kingdom will carry out the largest military drill since 2001 alongside Jordan, while Canada is currently conducting Arctic missions. Australia's military is planning for confrontation with China. And let's not forget the United States. Several states in the U.S. are carrying out odd military exercises and calling up National Guards, including the state of Washington, which has called 6,000 military personnel to simulate an earthquake response. This is the largest simulation of earthquake disaster response in the history of the Pacific Northwest. The military is active in many other states, simulating martial law and mega disaster response, though there has been an absolute blackout of military coverage in the United States. Why is that? Why is that? We are in the year of light, and the world is going to war. It is from the ashes of chaos that their phoenix will rise.
And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one.
Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? This work continues. The story goes on. And an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm.